Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Femme Force Podcast. My name is Rachel Pascan, and I am your host. And today I am joined by my very special friend, Courtney. Courtney and I met in Argentina, which is a trending topic on this podcast. I meet people all around the world, and I'm so grateful for that. So we met on a Wild Terrains trip, which is a women's group trip. And from there, we've been able to travel a little more together. We were just in Eastern Europe to see the Queen herself, Taylor, in Poland, because that's where we could get tickets, Poland. So for those of you that want to go, that's how you should have done it. So we went to Poland and we had a magical Taylor time. But I wanted to bring her on the podcast today because Courtney loves to, this is Seymour for anybody that's looking in the background here. Courtney loves to talk, to travel. And as a Black woman, I find it really interesting because on a lot of these trips, it's mostly white women that are on them. And then when we travel, also the different kind of travel experience that you have. So, Courtney, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
And can you tell the listeners just like a little bit about you, what you do, a little bit about your background, and then we'll get into your travel bug.
Sure. My name is Courtney, as Rachel said, born and raised in Connecticut. Still live here today. I was in law enforcement for 20 years at a municipal department and retired in 2019. And from there, I went on to work at a boarding school, an all-girls boarding school. And I'm now their director of campus safety. And so both jobs, being in law enforcement and being in this school setting, have now allowed me to a lot of time to travel and also the resources to be able to travel. I'm happy that Seymour has joined us because
Yes.
I'm also a cat person.
We love
And
the
you
cats.
may hear an occasional meow from my home as well. But yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
And I love that. And when did you really start finding an urge to travel? Was this like in college? Was it after? And you just were like, I'm going to do it?
So I went to Springfield College in Massachusetts, and my major was political science with a concentration in international relations, with the hopes that I was going to be like our friend Rhiannon and work for an embassy or a consulate, foreign service work, something
Yep.
like that. So I did a semester abroad in London my junior year, and I absolutely loved it. And we traveled all over Italy, Scotland, Spain. But when I got back home, I was like, you know what? Maybe I don't want to travel as much, which is so crazy to think
Yeah.
about now. And
Right.
so I kind of like shifted my focus a little bit. And I was like, okay, maybe I'll find a job that allows me to be back in the States or in Connecticut. And so then law enforcement, right after I graduated college, graduated in May, started the police academy in July, and boom, my career I was 21 and I was in it. So I think once I kind of solidified my career and was able to have some funds, additional
Yeah.
funds, I think that's what propelled me. And you started with your basics, the Florida, the Caribbean, the cruises, the stuff like that. And then I'm not really sure where I took a turn, but then it was just like game on. And
You've been all over. Like you were just in Singapore this past year and like
hmm
bopping around. So like you have the bug
yeah,
and
yeah,
it's
definitely got
deep
the bug.
within there.
I was trying to think about what year like really kicked it off, and I don't know when that was. Um, but I would do like two or three trips a year, and I
Yeah.
would say the last few years have just been a little bit obnoxious. So I
Or
am going
is
to
it
try
a
and
rite of
scale it
it's a
back.
rite of passage where I say
Or
that
it's a rite of
every year.
package.
Every year
Yeah,
I'm like, I'm gonna do less next year.
yeah,
Like, no,
yeah.
I'm gonna do less. It's gonna be fine. Like I'm gonna
Yes.
hasn't happened yet, so we're gonna see about it. I'm really
Yeah,
trying for
we'll see what
2025.
happens.
I'm like, you shall not plan. You shall
Right?
not book.
I only
You
have
were
one
no, I only have
so
one, and
far.
it's so well, that's a lie. I have two, maybe three. I'm like, I have one, two, three. I'm like, no, the
They
random. I'm
add
like,
up. They just add
they
up.
add up, and they're just it's a whole different ball game, I feel like.
hmm
And I mean,
hmm
you travel on a lot of these women's groups. So how did you find those and kind of get into that?
hmm I probably came across Wild Trains. It had to have been on social media, and it was just about pre-COVID, I think, because I was supposed to go to Argentina originally during COVID. I think it was spring of 2020, maybe. I'm never 100% sure on that.
I mean, it was
Um,
a blur.
Yeah, it was it. Yeah,
And
the
4 years of a
whole
blur.
time period is a blur.
Yeah.
Um, so I came across them on social media and liked the vibe. I was like, okay, small group. I felt with the price point, um, you weren't necessarily going to get a bunch of, I'll just say weirdos. Like I feel
Yep.
like you were going to get some like legit, solid people. And the places that they were going, so obviously Argentina, I knew I wanted to go there. I didn't necessarily think it was someplace I wanted to conquer on my own. So I was like, this itinerary looks perfect. Wine in.
We're about it.
Um,
All about the wine.
so the first trip with them was obviously magical, absolutely fantastic. Met you, a bunch of other amazing women, and had a great experience with them. And just continued to book trips through them. They're really the only company that I've used, like all women travel company that I've used. And I'm probably going to stick with them.
I love
That's
that.
not to say that I'm not going to venture out and try other companies as well. But for now, Wild Trains is working for me. So I figure
Oh yeah, if it's
I'll
working
stick
right,
with
don't
them.
broke,
Yeah.
don't fix it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, you've been traveling for a long time and like in the
Hmm.
mid to late 2000s, let's say, we won't age us.
Hmm.
So with that, have you always been usually the only Black woman on these trips?
Yes, but also being from Connecticut, the area part of Connecticut that I'm from, so Northeast Connecticut, the town I grew up in, school I went to. I've always usually been one of the only or one of the few Black women. So I think I'm at the point in my life where it doesn't even, I don't even really think about it
Didn't phase
anymore.
you at all.
There are definitely times where I'm like, huh, I am the only Black person in this room,
Yeah.
or, brown skinned woman in this room. But it's usually a passing thought unless I'm getting like a weird vibe and I'm like, you know. But usually it doesn't even phase me. But yes, usually I am the only person of color on a lot
Have
of
you felt like this
trips.
has affected any of your travel and going around? I mean, when we were in Eastern Europe, I know we had people come up to us and I told everybody she was
Yes.
Simone Biles. So they wanted photos with you. And I
Yes.
was like,
Yeah.
she's in Paris. She's like, she's busy right now. Like Simone's just taking a break in Bucharest to,
No big
relax.
deal. No big
Yeah,
deal.
she's gonna go back to like
Yes.
hurdling things and jumping around in a moment, like leave her be. But it
Yes.
was like something that I mean, as just like a white woman, I've never experienced. So how
Hmm.
was that for you?
That was so Eastern Europe was I was I had concerns. I knew I was going to be with three, four other women at any given time. So I knew I would be okay. But I remember as we were planning and going through like our itinerary and talking about things we were going to do, I remember like, oh, should I ask about how Black women are perceived over there or about like how the race what the race situation is like over there because I just remember always being in the back of my head and I'm like no it'll be okay, then I'd be like well maybe I should ask, but then I didn't know how to ask because it's not something that I normally would bring up. But oh my gosh, who, I can't remember her name. The friend
Liz,
of the
Kate,
girl, Liz, thank you. I had
we're
to
gonna edit that out.
Liz, I'm
Mango.
sorry, Liz, I'm sorry.
It's a code word. Mango.
Liz had her friend from Moldova.
Yes.
And, I kept wanting to reach out to Liz and ask Liz, like, hey, can you check with your friend? And, like, just be like, hey, one of the women that's going is Black and she just has some concerns. Is it okay? But then I didn't know Liz that well. Like, we'd only been like texting. So then I'm like, you know what? We're just
Wing
going to
it.
go. It'll
Yeah.
be fine. Yeah.
Wing it.
Yeah.
I mean, at the
Yeah.
concert, I felt Poland was like a global hub that
Yeah.
weekend because Taylor was
Yes.
there and it
100%.
was there was a million people from a million that did the same thing that we did for reasonably
Yeah.
priced
Yeah.
tickets
Yeah.
and flew to go there and
Yes.
do that. But I feel
Yeah.
like when we went to those smaller cities that people are like countries that people
Yeah.
don't always visit and they should.
Yes.
But literally, Romania was stunning. It was beautiful.
Oh my gosh, it was
Moldova,
so
hidden
beautiful.
hidden treasure, cats,
Hmm.
wine. We were so happy.
But can't ask for anything more.
It was the best time ever. So like couldn't complain. We stayed at a hotel with all the cats, but I had
Hmm.
never experienced that. I mean, the only time I've ever had somebody like come up to me or ask for a photo would be when I'm in Africa, and it's normally
Hmm.
not me. It's always the blonde, which I'm like,
Yeah,
"Mm,
yeah,
hi, like I'm here too. I
yeah,
could be just as exotic, but they do not see it that way. They're like, no, that
right,
blonde, like she's got to be a celebrity, and you're like, no, she's just a blonde person. But to them, they're like, that we've never seen this, like your
right.
hair. Like,
Hmm.
I'm like, well,
Hmm.
crap, I'm going to dye my hair, so
Yeah,
I can be famous. But I've never had that experience before.
yeah.
And do you feel
That
like that's something more Eastern Europe or?
I do. Like, I can't say anybody's ever come up to me and asked or tried to communicate that they wanted to take my picture. So this woman came up to me and she kept pointing at her phone, but her phone
Yeah,
was like a wallet type thing. So at first I thought she was asking for money.
which
But
is
the
not
area that we were
unusual.
in, it didn't, right, but it didn't vibe with that area, because we were at a castle. And
Yeah.
and so, you know, we're all just like walking and talking. You guys were like ahead of me and I'm kind of like behind, and she's like tapping me on the shoulder and like, and then I was finally like, oh, I'm like, I think she wants my picture.
She wants my picture.
I'm like, huh. And then, but I think actually you stepped in, Rachel, and you were like, no. And then finally our tour guide like chimed in and was able to say something to her. And, you know, and I never asked the tour guide what she had said to her. Um, or
I just kept
vice
being
versa,
like,
what their
it's Simone
conversation
Biles and
was.
she's on vacation. Leave her alone.
Yes. Um, so, but that I got to say, that was the first time that had ever happened. But I felt like it was like, I'm like, okay, we got it out of the way. I
Yeah.
think that'll be the worst of it. But then when we were in Moldova, and not that this is anything bad, but remember we were having the conversation with a woman who lived in Philadelphia
Yeah.
and outside the museum, and we had run into her someplace else, and the conversation was flowing, whatever. And then she looked at me and she said, "Well, how are people treating you?" And I was like,
And we were
"Actually, very
like,
good." You
yeah,
know, I
like
was like,
it's been
I was like,
fine.
actually, it's been actually totally fine. And she was like, good, that's good to hear. And she was Moldovan, but she had moved to Philadelphia and she was back with family.
I
So,
mean, she
but the
seemed
fact that,
surprised. Yeah. She was
yeah,
like,
but the
okay,
fact that
good.
she even asked that means I'm get like, and again, I think I saw one other Black person in Moldova.
And we
Um,
went to different cities too. So it's not like we
yeah,
were
yeah,
sitting at one resort or doing anything.
right. Hmm.
Do you think these kind of experiences are hindering other Black women from traveling or trying to travel?
I'm not sure. So my, you know, source of news these days is TikTok. And so there's of course this
Yes.
TikTok, like it's Italian TikTok and tourists and women going to Italy. And there are some Black creators who have mentioned that they've had a hard time in Italy and have experienced racism in Italy. Um, and you know, in the comments back and forth where like people are like, oh, I've never had a problem. Other people are like, yeah, I've had a problem. And then you have people saying, well, oh my gosh, well, that scares me, I don't want to go.
Yeah.
um, but when I went to Italy, I was fine, but I was with my husband who is a white Italian man, so
He's like, move
that
out of the way. Forget about her.
forget about it.
Forget about her. She's with
So
me.
that so that could have played a part in, you know, how I was treated as well. But I do think that on occasion, women who may not necessarily be start off being confident or sure of themselves, and like especially with venturing out with traveling, I think it might keep them from going to certain places because we
Yeah.
all do research nowadays, and it's so easy. Like I just said, TikTok. It's so easy to go on social media and find a view that's skewed one way or another. So I think
I
that if
feel like
you're
it's,
already not sure,
yeah,
it's
if
going to
they're
hinder
going to go
you.
or not. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like the diversity of travel is like getting better, but I always feel like it's just like
Mm-hmm.
women, we're like 20 years behind, where it's still half
Mm-hmm.
the places we go to, like it's not safe for us to go alone. So we have to
Mm-hmm.
go in
Mm-hmm.
groups or we have to
Mm-hmm.
go,
Yeah.
with more than one person. You can't just like backpack around
Yeah.
sub-Saharan Africa, or like you
Right.
can do it in Asia, but like Eastern Europe's
Mm-hmm.
even quite Albania. Like these places
Mm-hmm.
are questionable for like women
Yeah.
to try. Morocco, when I went, my dad was like, "Why would you go there?
Yeah.
Those
Yeah.
girls had their head on a spike." And I'm like,
Yeah.
number one, they were blonde. Number
I am
two,
brunette.
they were hiking alone in the Atlas
Yeah.
Mountains, two of them,
Yeah.
like not doing
Yeah.
that. This is, see, another good reason why I don't hike. So important. Like I'm saving my life by not doing that. So
Basically.
they're right, literally. I'm like, I'm gonna go to a concert. I can't hiking. People die hiking. So not the best idea, but like I would never
Hmm.
have gone and I've never recommended going to like Morocco or Egypt. I'm like,
Right.
really like that's not like a solo,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not a solo dolo kind of thing. Like it's
Right.
not the safest for you to go.
Right.
It's just not like the best. And
Yeah.
I wonder if we expand more or these tourism boards expand more into
Hmm.
like the diversity sector and like looking at
Hmm.
diversity and inclusion, like telling people like it's safe and we like respect everyone and we're with the
Yeah.
times, come
Yeah.
on over. I also
Right.
think you're missing out on such an economical
Right. Exactly.
standpoint. Like
Yep.
you're willing to spend money.
Yep. Willing to spend money. Willing to spend money. I said that very well.
We spend it. She's top tier and like doing that. We love that for you. Have you ever felt that you kind of had to overcome like stereotypes of being a Black woman while you're traveling with these women's groups?
No, I haven't actually. I have felt pretty comfortable, like right from the get-go. Um, so no,
I
I
love
think
that.
that yeah, I just kind of just go with I'm pretty easygoing.
You are the easiest going.
So
You're just like, I'm here. What do you want to
so
do?
it's just like
I want some wine. I'd like to see some cats. Like,
it's
how should
really
we
all
do
I
with
need.
that?
Um, yeah, so I just, I kind of look at it like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know their backstory or what's going on in their lives or whatever, and vice versa. So I just kind of just be open-minded, outgoing, friendly,
Yeah,
and
which
just
you
it is
always
what
have.
it is.
I
Yeah.
feel like these groups, though, they've got to be so good for this because it's just women that want to meet other women
Yeah.
that want to
Yeah.
travel.
Yep.
We're like, we don't care what you do, who you are, where you're coming. Like, you want to
Right.
travel? Cool.
Yeah.
Somebody to
Yeah.
travel with, a
Yes,
friend to
exactly.
travel with. Like, what
Exactly.
an amazing thing to have. And it's so
Hmm.
hard when you get to a certain age, let
Yeah.
alone anything
Yeah.
else,
Yeah.
because everybody's like, I gotta check my suburban schedule. Nope,
Hmm.
this one's got soccer, this one has cheer, this one's got, and
Exactly.
I'm like, Seymour's doing nothing today,
Yep. It's just taking
which is
another
what he
nap.
normally does, is nothing. So he's the best unemployed cat in the world.
Love that. Love Seymour.
So, share any kind of like insights that you think Black women should know before they travel. Do you feel like they should just do the research or kind of be like, I'm going to get my opinion on it myself? And
I think research does need to be done, um, especially when you factor in the LGBTQ plus.
yeah,
If you add that piece into it as well, that's another thing that people you need to look into because not every place is accepting.
yeah,
So I do think research you do need to do your research. Um, and get opinions, both sides of the story.
yeah,
People who are against it, people who are for it, people who love it, whatever, and then make your own opinion and then kind of just go with your gut feeling. Like if you're so like unsure and nervous and trying to convince yourself that you have to go someplace that you'll be okay, I feel like you probably had to take a step back and reconsider. Like why are
yeah.
you forcing yourself to do this if you're so uncomfortable? So I think definitely research, just to make sure that where you're going is accepting, is safe. But I don't think you should let it hold you back. You just need to make sure you're prepared and know what to expect.
What do you feel like you have gotten from the cultural experiences from travel? Do you feel like it's bettered you, given you certain skills since you're doing like you do this with groups, you do this with just one other
Hmm.
friend, you've done solo stuff, you've done stuff with your husband. How do you feel like this
Hmm.
has affected you?
I think it's definitely built my confidence. I know I mentioned I was in law enforcement, and there's definitely a certain level of confidence that you need to have for that job.
Yeah,
But like on a personal or social level, I feel like it's boosted my confidence. It's opened my eyes to all of the other types of people, livelihoods, um, situations that people are going through. Um, Conversationally, it's like I look at everybody that I meet and everybody that I talk to, I'm always so impressed with the flow of the way that they talk,
yeah,
the things that they say. Like I just feel like everybody is so much more intelligent than I am. And I'm always fascinated.
not
Like
true.
listening to you do these podcasts is um it's so amazing to me that you're just so comfortable with getting in front of the camera and speaking, and you're so eloquent. See, I can't even say the word eloquent. You're so eloquent. um, so I feel like I try to take pieces, little bits from everybody that I meet that, that I admire, and try to incorporate that into my daily life and how I present myself or how I speak. So
That's so
I
smart
actually
though,
already
but
forgot the conversation
you're
or
good.
the question.
We were talking about what it's brought to you, and what you're saying is true
Oh,
though. But
yeah.
I think that goes for
Hmm.
every woman. Like I always tell people, if you're the smartest one in the room, you're in the wrong room. Like that's a saying for a reason.
Yeah.
Like if you're the
Hmm.
smartest person in the room, like no, the day that I stop learning stuff is the day that like I better be
Hmm.
6 feet under in the ground, because like you have to learn something every
Yeah.
day. If not, I don't know what you
Yeah.
just can't. Like you got to
Yeah.
learn. The world's
Yeah.
too evolving. Things are happening all the time. Technology is booming, cultures are
Yep.
changing. It's so different. I think
Yes. Yeah.
travel's brought that too. Like you start
Hmm.
to understand that. And do you feel like it's helped you with the different connections you've made in these different
Hmm.
countries? Like meeting, I love meeting like women and from other countries who are small
Hmm.
business owners or moms or survivors in some sense, to be like, how have
Hmm.
you gotten here? And like the
Hmm.
difference in our lives. Do you have any experiences with that?
Not really. I can't say that I have. On the trips that we've been with Wild Trains, I find it very interesting to hear about the women that we meet who are running the businesses, the bars, the uh, everything. I love hearing their backstory, and I love sharing, or I love hearing what they share about their livelihood growing up, or about their current lives and how
Yeah.
their day to day. Um, and so I think that also helps me as a person, because you're like, okay, not everybody is on the same path. Not everybody has the
No.
same experiences. So it's also eye opening to hear that there are different experiences. People have been through so many different things. And it makes you appreciate what you have. But and at the same time, it could also make you strive for a little bit more.
Yeah. Oh, that's such good advice. What do you feel has been your favorite country?
Oh my gosh.
I
It
know.
changes. It changes. I used to
Okay.
say South Africa, and then
That's a
it
good
went
one
to
though.
Argentina,
Both have great wine and
and now it's
cats.
New Zealand.
Now it's me.
So
You're hopping like continents here.
I
These are,
am. I am. They all have their own individual wonderful qualities, and I love them all for different reasons. But in Argentina, I always go back to Argentina just because it was such an
it was
amazing
so beautiful.
experience. So I'd say Argentina for the all encompassing experience that we had. But I also liked Iceland. Uh,
Iceland is stunning.
I don't know. I can't answer
Food
it.
was amazing.
Yeah.
See, I
Yeah.
tell people it's Cuba because you have no cell phone service. So I'm
Yeah.
like, you're literally disconnected. You're like, you are in the moment.
Yeah.
There
We
is
were in the
no,
moment. We were in the
yeah,
moment
loved
for
that. What
sure.
about your least favorite? I know mine.
My least favorite. Um, oh,
I think it's the
Mumbai.
same. I was going to say, I think it's we have the same. It's
Yes.
I got bed bugs, so mine was a little bit
Oh,
different comparative to yours.
and I
But
got a
yeah,
little touch of what's it called? What they call it? Mumbai
Deli
belly? No,
belly,
belly belly,
Deli
belly
belly.
belly. Yeah, a
No,
little
the Deli
touch.
belly.
It was too much. It was too much. The
The
poverty.
disparity of wealth. That's what I tell people. I'm like I've
Yes.
been, I mean, you have too.
Yes.
We've been to poor of poor in Africa,
Yeah.
poor of poor. And this was a different
Yeah.
level. Like you have the richest of the rich and then the poorest of the poor.
Yeah.
And those kids are not shy
Yeah.
about like coming up, like even
No.
in Africa
No.
they're like they ask for candy because that's what because
Yeah.
apparently that's all we bring from
Right.
America is sugar to places, so
Sugar.
they would ask for
Red
candy, and so
40.
like you hand out candy because like that's a fun
Yeah.
thing. But
Yeah.
like this was like just a different kind of
Yeah.
poverty.
It was so hard. Like I just laid in bed at night and I was just like, oh my gosh. I'm like, I just want to go home. I don't know if I can do this. Um,
Well, you opted
and
on
then
not touring the slums. I didn't tour the slums
I did,
either
yeah,
because I'm
no, did
like
not
this
tour the
they're
slums.
I just feel like that is a popular tour. It is like the
I don't
number one tour on Viator
understand.
for people to go into these slums. And like, I'm like, these aren't just like you think slum, like, oh, it's like a little bit, these are people's homes. Like you're literally,
Right.
it's like zoo animals, which zoos are hard enough as it is. I'm like, and
I
now you want
agree.
to
I
like
agree.
tour like
Yeah.
their zoo animals and like look at them like there's something different, like some dignity in this. Like
Yeah.
it's got to be
No.
so hard for them. And like it's the generational wealth. Like
Hmm.
it's really, I don't really know how they get out of it there. And that was
I
like,
don't
that was
either. Yeah.
mind-boggling to me.
Yeah. The just to like know like you're in a nice hotel and all this like beautiful these nice restaurants and
Mhm.
delicious food and drinks and there's a pool and spa and then you go and you look like over the side of the building and you're looking down onto the slums and you're like I get how are people living like not even people living in the slums like I understand that's where they are at their like in their point in their life right now, this is where they are,
Yep.
but how do the people with all this wealth look up down on that every day at these poor people who are suffering and struggling? And then I realized, you know what, I bet half the people who are working in this hotel live in the slum,
Oh yeah.
um, because that's where isn't most of the population, don't they live in the slums? It's like
Yeah.
some
It's
crazy
like some saying
staggering
like
number.
70% like
Yeah.
of people.
Yeah.
But then if you're middle
Yeah.
class, the middle class is like more than we would consider middle class. Like
Yeah.
we don't have children, child is by choice here, people.
Child
So
by choice.
like child is by choice, but like children are they are expensive. They are
Yeah.
little expensive fuckers. And so like we at least have like additional income to go travel, to go do
Mm-hmm.
this, to go do
Mm-hmm.
that. But like I couldn't imagine like you can't get out of it. There's like no
No.
way. Like because you can't afford the
Mm-mm.
college. You can't
Right.
afford and like the colleges there, they're okay, but like what you really want to do is go to Cambridge or go to Oxford or
Mm-hmm.
London School of Economics. Like you want to leave and
Mm-hmm.
go there. And COVID stopped that and it was a whole
Yeah.
big thing. And like
Yeah.
that was probably the hardest one. And not just
Yeah.
because I got bed bugs, but that the bed bugs were
But
awful.
yeah.
So
It was
itchy.
just it was an attack on the I said it was an attack on the senses. It
Mhm.
was the poverty, like you said, the disparity of wealth, the it was dirty. And
Oh
there's
yeah, you
this
can never
wasn't
be
there a
clean.
saying the clean keep on by green or clean or something like
Yeah,
that, but
it's not a thing.
it was never like there was just dirt, like it wasn't necessarily like well there was garbage also, but it was like just there was dirt everywhere. This is the only time on a trip that I've thrown away a pair of shoes
Yeah.
and also washed the bottom of my shoes every time we came in. We didn't just take them off by the door, like washed our shoes. um it was just it
No,
was
and
an
it's
attack on
just
the senses. It was overwhelming. I just didn't know. I didn't know how to act, react, how to feel. Like it was just,
no, and they're
I
not
was
shy
ready
about
to go
asking for
home.
money.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
this is not America where like you just give your
yeah,
leftovers. They are clinging on to
yeah,
you. And like that's
yeah,
the kids are always the hardest.
yeah,
Where you're
yeah,
like, you didn't ask
yeah,
for this, like this, like you're just
yeah,
you got born
yes,
into this and you got like you really got a short end of the
yeah,
stick, kid. But like,
yeah,
what are you gonna like? There's only so much you can do. And
yeah,
like I can buy your tissues all day long, but like, is that gonna what is it? Where
yeah.
does that money go? And like why aren't also go to school? Why aren't you in school?
Right. Why aren't you in school?
Why
I
aren't you
am
in
glad
school?
I had the opportunity to
Yeah.
go and see it. That was, that was fantastic. But man,
I
and
know
you know,
I've
and that's to
gone
say I
like
wouldn't
eight
go back to
times. It's
India. I
hard.
would go
Yeah.
back. There's with the southern southwestern coast is supposed to be beautiful, and then isn't there a spot in the north that's also like there's
It's
parts of
supposed
the
to be
country that
stunning
are
and
absolutely
tigers right on the
beautiful.
border. Yeah. I'm
Yeah,
like, I want to
so
go
it's
to like the
not.
northern part.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to going back to India. It just I found Mumbai just to be
I've done
maybe a
Mumbai,
safer
Delhi,
place.
and where the Taj Mahal is, the one that starts with an A that I'm blanking on.
Yeah.
But like I've told
Uh,
friends that are like, oh my God, how I'm like, yes, the Taj Mahal was what a breathtaking, momentous
right.
experience for me to see a
Hmm.
palace literally built for a woman. He
Yeah.
got that for his wife. And I'm like, good on you, babe. Like
Hmm.
like wow, just like
Hmm.
stunning, insane. It was still India though. The minute you got outside the gates, the
Hmm.
poverty, the trash, like
Yeah.
and I'm
Yeah.
just like, you can't really escape it. And like, I
No.
don't know where. I don't know where or when they're going to get on it. I don't know if it's going to be like, I've
Mm,
got girlfriends that go and have gone like with the tourism boards, and they're like,
hmm.
I loved it. They're like, it
Hmm.
was just so different than anything I've ever done. And I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm like, we view different in two different ways. That
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
like, I couldn't
Yeah.
like the poverty, like, and I will continue going back because I love the people that I work with there, and they're amazing and intelligent and like
Hmm.
making a difference. But it's the kids and the disparity of wealth. When you know the
Yeah.
richest man in the world like lives
Right.
in an entire building, and he's like, and
Right.
you walk outside
That
and you're
building is
like,
crazy.
and slums everywhere, and I'm
Yeah.
just like, dude,
Everywhere.
come on,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
if you gave
Yeah.
like 2%
Oh
of
my
your
gosh,
income
exactly.
back to the
It would be
people,
life
just
changing for so
life
many
changing,
people.
life change. They
Yeah.
have the infrastructure,
Yeah.
they have the people to be able to do it.
Yeah.
So we took a whole tangent on India, and I love that. This is how this usually goes. So, how do you feel about your perspective now on personal growth in like travel? Like when you go to places, do you seek out
Hmm.
things where you're like, this is going to be something different for me? Or are you like, this is the hot place to go. I want to go there.
I have to say that it's usually this is the hot place to go. Let me
Oh,
find
do
out the
it.
best restaurants and the, bars and gotta go check out this beach or whatever it may be. That is normally how when I'm traveling by myself or with friends or with my husband, that is usually what happens. But when I go on the group trips, I definitely am appreciative that I am seeing a different perspective as opposed to
And
just
you've
the
been
hot
doing some
spots.
of them domestically too. So you just did New Orleans too. How was
I just
that
did New
seeing
Orleans.
something in your own backyard? Because it is
Yeah, it
just
was
in
great.
America.
Yep, because if I went to New Orleans on my own, it would have been Bourbon Street. It would have been, it would have just been the bars.
I
It
mean,
would
all
not
the
have been very
things. I
cultural at all.
You could have
Yes.
met Zara, my psychic. He's great. Hopefully he's listening to this. So
So it was very good that I did get the perspective. I got them. We got history of it. I learned things about New Orleans I didn't know. The architecture. So it was very like I was glad that I'm like, okay, you know what? Depth. There's
oh,
depth to
there's so
every
much.
place that you go.
There's
But yeah, so but I was
yeah, but a
glad that I
different
was
kind.
able to.
Nor
Yeah.
New Orleans is special. It's just a different kind
Yes.
of place.
Yeah.
Where's
Yeah.
next then on your hot list? Like, where do you want to go next?
Well, I have Japan booked for March. Um,
Yes, you're gonna love it.
yes. Oh, I mean, I am going to Toronto for a quick trip next month to see what we can
Potential of
see.
sales, potential of Taylor. Everyone manifests the crap
Yes,
out of this
potential
for her
sighting.
and
Yeah.
vibes.
Yes. But man, like my list is always it's always changing. Like I have Curacao that I want to go to. I want to go back to New Zealand to see the South Island, Mauritius. Like I'm like all over the place. I want to go to Costa Rica. Basically, if somebody suggests it to me, I'll
You're
say
me. It
okay.
goes on a list, and I'm like, okay, let's look into
Yeah,
that.
I'm like, all
And
right,
at
that
four in
works.
the morning,
I
I'm
can
up, and I'm
shuffle that
like,
around and put that up there.
I should
Yeah.
totally be researching this trip right now, and I need to take it.
Yes.
So, like, love that
I'm
we're
like, oh my
cutting
gosh, I found
back.
a flight.
I know.
Yeah, I know,
Love that we're
right? I
cutting
know.
back, but we're like,
I
we can
know.
go. It's going to be
Yeah.
great for us. I think that's hilarious.
Yes. Yeah.
So, have you gotten any new perspectives from traveling? Like, has anything changed your mind that, like, you went into a place and you were like, oh, this is going to be like this, but you came out and you're like, oh, no, this is completely different than what I thought it was going to be?
Hmm.
It's like from the
Romania.
TikTok, Romania,
The
from
TikTok.
the TikToks.
Romania, I was fully expecting it to be gray and run down, and maybe not that friendly. And I actually really liked Romania when we did the communist tour. I thought that was
That was
amazing.
cool.
The fact that the city was so bustling and just walking around and like all the restaurants and all the little shops. And I did not expect that. It was basically like a little city.
No,
And
Bucharest
for
was
some
super
reason,
cool.
I think I was expecting like a little town vibe.
I think I was thinking
I
way
don't,
more communist era. Like, I didn't think they had fully gotten out of it. I never have
yeah,
been. So, like, how are we supposed to
yeah,
know? But like, I
yeah,
was like, this is going to be like full on, like a communist experience. Like, they're going to be
yeah.
still like coming out of the trenches of it. It's going to be super interesting. I mean,
Hmm.
wish they were. We've stayed in a pre-communist era.
We
apartment.
did, which was
Courtney got
beautiful,
stuck in the
except for the
elevator.
elevator.
Yeah, Courtney got stuck in the elevator, but like we made it out. We made
Mm.
it out alive.
But what if we hadn't?
Okay, I'm gonna have that video for the rest of my life, and that's all that really matters.
Yes. Oh
So
my gosh,
it was
that was
great.
not fun.
I would say
But
also like the
Romania,
Dracula's castle, completely different.
yeah, yeah. I wanted
That
Dracula's
should have
castle.
been
The
gray and
dogs
spooky.
foreboding, exactly.
Nope,
But no, it
white,
was like bright and airy, and
sunny.
like it actually reminded me of like someplace like from Beauty and the Beast,
Yes.
like the
Like,
French countryside castle type. I
yeah.
don't know.
I was like,
I
where are the
forget the
vampires? Where's
country.
the blood? Where's the
No blood.
vampires?
No
Like
blood.
they did not. Note to Romania, if someone from the tourism board is listening to this at any point, up your vampire game. Like
Yeah,
I expected souvenirs and like just Dracula this and vampires. Nope, nope. They were like, here's
they
a
have a
stick of
whole
meat.
market they're missing out on.
Yeah, here's a stick of meat.
100%. Yeah.
Enjoy. Here's a flag.
The meat was
Have a
pretty
great
good though.
time. Meat was great.
Um,
Food was on point.
but and also with Romania, didn't expect the countryside that we
Yeah,
went to. Didn't expect the castles. Didn't expect the Alpine village vibe that
so different.
that was in that area. Definitely not expecting that. So I think Romania um, definitely like opened my eyes to be like, okay, just because you think someplace is going to be one way, you don't really know until you get in it. And then
Yeah.
you like really get in it. Like we could have just stayed in Bucharest.
Yep.
Yeah, Bucharest. The whole Bucharest,
Yeah.
Budapest,
We got it.
Bucharest. But we ventured out, which I'm so glad that we did, and saw the countryside because totally different perspective than what I was expecting. So
Yeah, I feel like we learned a lot from there. I mean,
yeah,
even
yeah,
Moldova, all of it, it was just so
yeah.
different than what
Yep,
I even
yep.
expected. So
Mm-hmm.
super happy we did it.
Mm-hmm.
So as we're wrapping up here, I have one final
Mm-hmm.
question. If you
Sure.
could give one piece of advice to your 16-year-old self,
Ooh,
what would that be?
let's see. One piece of advice to my 16-year-old self.
I know, what were you doing at 16?
Oh my
She was having
gosh.
fun.
No, I was probably like sitting on a Friday night reading my books.
Love,
Um,
love that for us.
yes. I would say just to, I feel like just confidence. I feel like the confidence piece is such an important part of women in general. Just like
Yeah,
we need the confidence. We have to have the backbone. We have to be sure of ourselves. So I think, and I don't feel like I had the confidence growing up. So I think it's just about taking chances, getting out of your comfort zone, and knowing that you can do it. I think is
I love
basically the
that.
big thing. Like you can do it. Just try because you can
Just
do
try
it
it.
and you can succeed.
No,
Hmm.
I think everybody, even nowadays, imposter syndrome runs deep.
Yes. Yeah.
It's deep
Sure
in there. I think we all
does.
need to hear that at every age, but
Yeah.
that's a great piece of advice.
Hmm.
Well,
Thanks.
thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it. And I loved chatting with you and talking all about travels and your experiences. And I think the listeners are going to get really into this.
Excellent. Thank you for having me. It was very good to catch up. We need to do it again so we can rehash all of our little trips
Everything. All
and
right.
plan the next one.
I know. I've got ideas. We have lists. Thanks, everyone.